Hi guys, my name's James. I'm the brand ambassador here at Teeling Whiskey, and welcome to episode 4 of Teeling Whiskey Education 101. If you didn't get the chance to see the previous videos, you can check our Instagram. We've uploaded all of them, so you can see every aspect of production from grain all the way to distillation. But what we're going to be showcasing today is the process of maturation. How we go from our spirit off our pot stills to our whiskey in your glass at home. So to legally be considered Irish whiskey, you have to be distilled on the island of Ireland, and you also have to be aged in a cask for 3 years. And you're put into a cask like this to pick up the flavours and to pick up the character of the previous product and the wood. So we're going to use this wall here in our maturation space to show you what the inside of each cask looks like. So what we have here is a fresh filled cask. Now you can notice that the liquid is completely clear. That's because when it comes off the still, the spirit has no colour. All of the colour comes from the cask and would be reminiscent of perhaps the previous product that was in there. Now during the summertime, all of this liquid is going to get bigger. It's going to go into the wood, pick up those flavours. And naturally, during the winter time, it'll get smaller. It will pull those flavours into the liquid, mixing it all together. So we jump forward 3 years, and this is what we have. We have our lovely character in the whiskey. We have the colour of the cask and the previous product, and it's legally allowed to be called Irish whiskey. But there's some stuff missing, and that is here. We've lost a portion of our whiskey, and this is known as the angel's share. It's impossible to stop. It's evaporation up into the atmosphere, and in Ireland we lose about 2% a year. So the longer you leave your whiskey in the cask, the more whiskey you are going to lose. So the main style of cask that we use here in Teeling Whiskey is ex-American bourbon barrels. So we hand select them from the United States, and they're brilliant for giving good quality vanilla notes, caramel, a smoothness, a spiciness and a familiarity. Most whiskey in the world is actually aged in ex-bourbon barrels, but if we only use those, we wouldn't have done anything new. So we use these barrels to give our whiskey a good foundation, a good kind of place to build on. And then we usually undergo a second stage of maturation in upwards of 100 different styles of barrels, all the way from gin casks to wine casks and even barley wine casks. But one example I'm going to show today is the use of Central American rum casks. So I have our Teeling small batch here. So after 6 years in a bourbon cask, getting a good grounding, we transfer it over to the Central American rum cask for 12 months. And that is our third cask over here. And you can see it's quite significantly dropped in volume, but picked up a little bit darker, spicier and fruitier style to it. Now that drop is due to the process of blending and transferring the cask. And that's okay for us. We would rather lose whiskey to ensure that our whiskey has that signature Teeling effect, that spiciness and that fruitiness that everybody who drinks a bottle of small batch can familiarise with. Now if we leave our whiskey in even longer, you can see in the last cask, it's right down at the bottom. And that is an example of our 30-year-old. We've lost over half the entire quantity of the cask. But all of those flavours have just gotten denser, thicker, smoother, and more robust. So the longer you leave it in, the more waxier, oilier and dominant those flavours are going to be. So we've over 20,000 casks here at Teeling Whiskey, but I'm going to show you a select 3. So guys, what I have behind us in our pot still vault are 3 very important casks for us. We have the Zoe and the Holly Teeling cask. They are Stephen Teeling's 2 daughters. These casks were filled the day that they were born. So you can see Zoe's cask has legally turned whiskey at 3 years old, but Holly's cask has a few more years to go. But both of them have a good number of years before they're even allowed to drink what's inside those casks. We also have the Teeling single pot still batch 1. Here at Teeling we have seen that whiskey turn all the way from grain into the cask to legally be considered whiskey. And that is the first Dublin distilled whiskey in nearly 50 years that we released in 2018. So guys, thanks for tuning in to Teeling Whiskey Education 101. I hope you enjoyed it, and we really hope in the near future we'll get to welcome you all inside and give you a tour. But in the meantime, we have just recently reopened our cafe and our gift shop. So if you're in the area, please swing by for a chat, for coffee and maybe perhaps some whiskey. But guys, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and most importantly, stay safe.